I don't know if you've heard about this. Our military is kind of big-ish. I don't know
Right.
if you
Yes.
had heard about that. And it takes a
A little
lot
on the
of
large
metal.
side. Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. If you were at Starbucks, it is the venti of the world militaries.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly update of insanity. The show is called Washington to Westminster, two political titans separated by a big pond. From the US is my co-host and presenter of the Phoenix News Network, Andrew Bridges Smith, and I am Matt Johnston from the Interesting Times. So, Andrea, howdy. Good to see
Howdy.
you're still there. Long may that continue. So, to quote an American, any American, I suppose, what's going on?
Turns out we might be on the verge of a teensy weensy little constitutional crisis that might turn us from a democracy with three branches of government into a dictatorship with a single king. But, other than that, not much going on.
Oh dear, yeah, you don't want to go lobbing off your branches, do you? Unless you got Dutch elm disease, of course. Although I understand RFK had woodworm. Anyway,
Yes.
sounds serious. So I'm laughing, but it does sound serious. What's going on?
What's happening is that Trump has signed an executive order a couple weeks ago, freezing a bunch of federal funds for things like education and foods for kids. And, why should kids get free stuff like education and food, the little
Well,
urchins? Multiple judges have now said, no, you can't do that. You have to unfreeze those funds. And the Trump administration just hasn't complied with that order. Then J.D. Vance came along and said that the judicial branch can't tell the executive branch what to do, which, yes, absolutely they can. That's how our whole system is set up. We have three branches of government. Each one has the power to check and balance the others, and all three are supposed to be working together and calming the fuck down when one of the others tells them to calm the fuck down. And we don't quite know what happens yet if one of the branches just straight up refuses to calm the fuck down, especially since the Supreme Court has given the president basically total immunity for anything he does while he's in office. So you can see how that might start to be a little bit of a problem.
yeah, I mean, he seems to be putting the dick into Tater, doesn't he? Forgive me because I know you guys are relative newcomers at the whole democracy thing, but honestly, it's like your setup seems a little flimsy, shall we say. Your checks are bouncing and your balances are, well, falling over.
Yes, we could use some shoring up. Luckily we have some steel tariffs. Maybe that'll help. I don't know, but I have to say, if there's one good piece about any of this, it is that the wholesale theft of our democracy is being carried out by someone known as Big Balls.
Sorry, what now?
So Elon Musk has this ragtag bunch of interns that are merrily rampaging through the government. And one of them is a 19-year-old named Edward Korestein, aka Big Balls. And Matt, I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that they are the size of raisins, but I digress. This 19-year-old was once fired for leaking his employer's data to a competitor. So China, enjoy whatever intel that you are getting from that. Now, Raisin Balls over here is quite the accomplished young lad. Reporting from the Washington Post shows that he is a senior advisor at the State Department, FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, USAID, U.S. Doge Service, and Office of Personnel Management, all at the ripe old age of 19. And I gotta say, if this is who is in charge of nuking everything back to the Stone Age, I just hope that his sheer incompetence will get the job not at all done.
Yeah, I just want to say, Big Balls is definitely a name he's given himself, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I remember when I was at school, I used to refer myself to as Matt the Man Johnston. Nobody else called me it though, but there we go. Anyway,
You
yeah, this is
tried.
horrifying. Right, so the question is, if the police get involved, essentially, whose side would they be on? If the courts are turning around and saying this is illegal, surely the police come along and then, I don't know, arrest people or something? Or
Well, this is the thing. I was talking to my husband about this the other day. So normally what would happen is if someone disobeys an order from a judge, then they're held in contempt. And then the U.S. Marshals would come in and arrest that person. Now, the problem with that is that the head of the Justice Department, which is in charge of the U.S. Marshals, is somebody who is extremely loyal to Trump and basically has said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And also the Supreme Court has said that he really can't be arrested for anything. Now, people that work for him, in theory, could, but the Justice Department would have to carry that out, and they're not going to. So we don't really know what happens next.
Wow. Wow, it's all very up in the air. And in the meantime, of course, you've got big balls helping themselves to all manner of, data, I suppose. And thinking about it, it's going to be decades before you know how much damage this kid's done, right?
Yeah, that's just going to be a fun little surprise for later. So, Matt, what about you? You still doing the democracy thing, or you looking to put Charles back in charge of it all?
Oh, we should be so lucky. No, we still got the Labour government. They always used to be called Tory light before the election, and it used to annoy me because I thought they're not Tories. They're nothing like Tories. Well, strap yourself in, Andrea, because it's looking that way. Here we go. We decided if you can't beat them, join them. So we're having raids on migrants, handcuffing them, and marching them on planes and chaining them up. Take that, poorest and most vulnerable in society.
Yeah, I'm curious about this. Didn't Starmer campaign against this very sort of thing?
Oh, yes. Change on every single bit of literature that the Labour Party sent out before the election.
Right.
It's now becoming clear, of course, they mean no change.
Yeah.
Starmer's approach, it seems, is that reform, that hard right party is doing rather well in the polls, and obviously led by Farage, and Trump are bestest buds and all that crap. And rather than try and sort out the economy, which is difficult and they don't know how, they should show just their light reform and kick people out. Because we're in Ireland, and if we don't kick people out, we'll sink. I've genuinely heard people and some politicians who have said that. And I can't help feeling it would be a better use of the government's time to improve educational standards, in particular to geology.
Yes, maybe geology first, and then right after that, economics, and we can just,
Right.
do two birds with one stone, perhaps.
I have to say, it's so depressing for so many reasons. We're not even a year into this new, Starmer's new term, as it were. Do you remember on last week's show I mentioned about the possibility of Starmer trolling Trump?
I do, and we were both excited about that idea.
Yeah, well, now it kind of looks like he's just emulating him.
Well, hopefully he's not been shopping for bronzer.
Well, that, of course, would be the giveaway, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So the other issue is that with a new government in place, they could have really just made the positive case for immigration, and just showed how much financially, culturally, we all benefit from it. Instead, we've gone down the tried and tested and failed route of go back to where you came from. Unless you come from Gaza, of course. Pathetic.
Yes, of course. If you are from Gaza, then don't go back to where you came from, because we are redeveloping that into a golf resort of some sort. Anything to distract from the fact that billionaires are making off with large chunks of your unsinkable island, I suppose.
And just to show that there's no level to which they take the piss, did I see right about a story about Elon Musk pushing Trump, and Trump's going to sign a kind of like thing for all these visas for white South Africans to be able to come to America? I'm like, yeah, they're the victims here,
Yes, the plight of the white immigrant is, a long and storied history. The paleness of their faces, just nobody wants to let them in. And so we must open the arms of liberty to embrace the palest among us. And unfortunately, that won't leave us any room for the brown and black people. Oh, darn it, it keeps happening, doesn't it?
The good thing for us, anyway, I don't know if you found that over here, is that Starmer's new approach has certainly come under attack, actually from ex-members of their own party, like Diane Abbott and Jeremy Corbyn, who decided to swap Labour Party membership for their humanity. But also from the Tories who call it the border surrender bill because we're not sending people back to countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, why not, Andrea? If anything did happen in either of those countries, then I'm sorry, but it's got nothing to do with either of our countries, does it?
Well, not since we've learned a valuable lesson about what happens when we meddle in the affairs of Iraq and Afghanistan. Probably best for everybody to just back away slowly from whatever's happening over there.
Oh, yeah, yes. Fair point, actually. But if Labour hadn't quite hit rock bottom yet, there were some WhatsApp messages that have come to light from a group called Trigger Me Timbers. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think that's the name. We've got our thumbnail title there, right there, haven't we? Trigger Me
Yes.
Timbers.
Yes.
But it includes some racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic messages in there. So much for change, right?
Yeah, this is something that keeps happening, and I know I've heard about it over there, and something that happens over here too. I'm curious if you've ever seen the show The Wire.
I have not. The only thing I'm familiar with is that they've got a British guy on there called David Hare who apparently does an impeccable American accent. That's
Yes,
all I know.
and Idris Elba. That was the thing that kind of launched his career. He's also British, of course, but famously.
Yeah.
You would not have known that by watching this show. But anyway, I did recommend the show. It's fantastic. Takes a couple of episodes to get into it, but once you do, it's really good. But there's this really funny scene where there's this drug kingpin and he's having a meeting with some other drug kingpins. And one of his guys whips out a notepad and starts taking notes. And he goes,
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
and the moral of that story is if you're gonna be awful, for heaven's sakes, don't be awful in writing. Why can we
Oh,
not learn this lesson?
yes, yes, very clever. Yeah, actually, that's so true, isn't it? It's just like destroy all evidence. The whole point. I mean, the thing is, what's frustrating with the WhatsApps as well is that with the COVID inquiry, they were trying to get hold of the WhatsApps from Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak.
Right.
They couldn't get them. They were like, "Oh, I swapped phones. Oh, I lost that phone. I dropped it in the Thames." All this sort of crap coming out, and they couldn't. Obviously, as we know, even comes to groups like the CIA, they can't encrypt. It's totally encrypted. They can't get into WhatsApp information. So I suppose the second next thing is to ensure that you trust everybody in the WhatsApp group, not to
Yes.
either lose their phone or just hand it over when a Sunday newspaper comes knocking.
Yes, or if someone is scuba diving in the Thames and they find the phone that you accidentally dropped in there, quotation marks, then who knows what could happen. So you've got to be on the lookout for disloyal friends and scuba divers. That's the lesson for today.
And people that can be bribed. Because I was sitting there thinking, if I found that phone, first thing I'd do is sit there and go, "Hello, what's it worth for me not to make this go public?"
Right,
You know.
right, exactly. It's a nice way to make a tidy little chunk of change. Speaking of that, there was a news story that we have a law that prevents us from bribing foreign officials, and Donald Trump has signed one of his little executive orders to make that go away.
Wow.
So now we can start bribing foreign officials again. So, yay us!
Well done. And the price of eggs are still how much?
High, very high, not going down, still going up. And in fact, I just saw a story this morning that inflation in January was higher than expected. The jobs report worse than expected. So, this booming economy that Trump was going to usher in on day one is
Yeah.
perhaps not off as good to a start as we would have hoped.
No. The latest one's the steel. People are nervous about the steel. They've been asking the British government about the steel because obviously Trump's looking at posing blanket tariffs on the steel. But the rather interesting thing is it's a bit of a gamble. Well, it's a hell of a gamble because you're left with two options, really. If you try and sell steel to America, and they're like, "Okay, that's fine, but we're going to slap all these tariffs on it," then I suppose you've got two options. The company themselves or the steel makers, they can't really relocate to America anyway, can they? So all that's happening is places like the EU are now looking at trying to sell to China, trying to sell to India. It's not really what we want. We want to sell to America, but it seems somebody's stopping that.
Yes, and what is kind of interesting about this is that we need a lot of steel because, as you know, we have I don't know if you've heard about this. Our military is kind of big-ish. I don't know
Right.
if you
Yes.
had heard about that. And it takes a
Living
lot
on the
of
large
metal.
side. Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. If you were at Starbucks, it is the venti of the world militaries. So it's just a little bit more ice in that cup. But it takes a lot of metal to build things like bombs and the jets that drop the bombs onto places, and the warehouses that store the bombs. So we need a lot of steel.
Right.
So I know we're trying to protect American steel companies and let them have first crack at whatever it is, but hopefully they can keep up with however much bombing we are planning to continue to
Business is
do.
booming. Yes. And I see as well. Did I see this right? That he's released the Epstein files, Trump.
I didn't see that. I feel like we would have heard more about that if he had done that, or if there was something interesting. Then I'm sure there is
Yeah.
still one particular person that has been redacted in whatever has been released or will be released. There will be a anonymous person number one who is a strange citrus hue, but we're not going to say who that is.
It's just going to be so heavily redacted, isn't it? Just black block, black block, black block, black block.
Exactly.
I do wonder if Trump is just, if he's made a mistake here, he might have done, he's just signing all these things going, how great am I? And Mr. President, the episode, yeah, that's fine, there we go. It's just, whoa,
Yeah.
what did I do? Get
Yeah, at
that
this
one
point, he's
back.
kind of just signing anything that they put in front of him.
Yeah,
And I say, can we use that to our advantage? Can we get somebody in there, that can sneak some fun stuff in? There's been a lot of doom and gloom lately, right? Like, let's do some weird national holidays. Can it be National Baguette Hat Day, and everyone has to wear a baguette on the front of their hat, and joust each other with their hats, or something ridiculous like that. We need a fun one every once in a while. Like, it's all just been serious and taking away funds from people and gutting jobs and ruining people's livelihoods. Like, we need bread on hats. So somebody just a brave patriot somewhere in the White House put that together, slip it in front of him, and let's have fun on a Thursday, shall we?
you just know he's not saying, what's this, when he's signing stuff. He's just doing that weird dicka, 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 dicka.
Yeah, doesn't his signature kind of look like, very ironically, like the lines on a lie detector test, like the needle going up and down? There's a huge irony in that.
Mr. Trump, are you a liar? No.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what they do before he signs anything. They hook him up to some electrodes, and then they're like, "All right, so you're ready." And then someone just whispers a question into his earpiece, and he just
That seems to work.
yeah. Now the good news is that if America does go full tyrant and the UK decides to play copycat, and it sounds like there's some other countries around the world also ready to follow suit. At least the Danes will be out there fighting the good fight. I saw that there is a Danish petition going around right now to try and buy California from the US. I love this. I assume it's just a bit of trolling, but if they want to go ahead and colonize my neighborhood here in Austin, also fine with that.
Well, can I say that as a country that used to be part owned by Denmark back in the, oh crikey, somebody will get on the comments and tell me now, but I think it was back in about the 13th century or something like that, 700 years ago. Anyway, I can confirm, I wasn't around then, that the Danes would be wonderful owners. They're very good for us, so there we go.
Interesting. And so, how did that come to an end if they were so good at it?
Yeah, they just sort of left and a little bit pushed, if I remember rightly.
Okay. Okay. Well,
They weren't here that long, but yeah, they kind of they had they lorded it over like northern parts of England, and then one of them married the king's ex-wife, and
wow.
they kind of,
Drama.
as they did then, there's a lot of kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing here, merging. They're doing merging there. But it was like the Danes, as you know, what the Danes are like, the Scandies. They just like to go places and take it over. We learn from the best, and so did
Absolutely.
you.
Well, yes, and we learned it from you, and you learned it from the Danes. So really, this is all Denmark's fault in the end, I suppose. Free pickled herring for everyone. All right. That is going to wrap up this week's episode, but we will be back next week, come hell or high water. If the UK starts sinking, it might be more high water. But if you do start to miss us in the meantime, head on over to Matt's channel at The Interesting Times UK. There's the handle down there for some British insanity and for more on the rapidly evolving, or devolving rather, state of American democro-crazy. Come back here on Friday to catch the Phoenix News Report. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.